Hello and welcome to today's daily news analysis. So today is 11th of Feb 2022. We are covering the Hindu newspaper's Delhi edition. Now, as part of our initiative, I share questions for mains answer writing practice and you can get your answers evaluated for free. Only thing is that this offer is specific for that particular week's DNA. For example, we are concluding this week, so we are on Friday today. So the questions that were shared between this week, Monday to Friday. And in this week, I have shared about 15-20 questions, and all of the questions are from the past years. And we don't repeat our questions very often, right? So that is the idea. The idea is that you have a holistic kind of preparation. And there is a myth actually that from the newspapers, can we start the answer right away? Yes, you can do it. Because when we are doing our topics, we are not, whenever we take up a topic, we go from the start. So from the inception, from the very basics we start, then I share the question before you, so you get a context and then you can write your answer. So your entire cycle for that particular topic is concluded with the point of view of the mains answer writing, and at the same time, when you prepare for prelims, mains, you're automatically covering your pre-component, because prelims is just facts and figures, names of the schemes, etc. Mains is putting that into context. That is the only difference. So for me, mains is more important as compared to pre. Automatically the pre is covered. Right. So today we have two questions. So one is on the RBI. RBI has recently brought about its monetary policy, which is accommodative. So I have a question, and with reference to RBI, one thing I would like to say is that we are witnessing RBI based questions, monetary policy based questions quite repeatedly in the recent times. So even in 2019, a question was asked. So one is this, and other is with respect to MSP. So MSP, there was an article, I made some changes, and I have a question, more holistic point of view over here. There were more opinions also. For example, there was one more opinion with reference to the local reservations, so domicile based reservation, but we have done it thoroughly 2-3 times. In fact, this week itself we did it, so I have not covered this. You can read it, but our analysis is much more thorough and within the framework of 250 words. Right then, so we get started. But before this, this is my friend of mine who cleared the Punjab Public Service Commission, and he is the friend actually. So Mr. Jashandeep Singh Kang, he is serving in the Punjab services, and he got a very good rank in the PCS examination. So it is about his journey, as you can see. So I know him as a candidate when we were preparing together. In fact, we also have a footage, after the examination, we are both diverging together. So we came in the newspapers also. So it is about this journey and his journey through the struggle that he had with the UPSC examination, with the state PCS. He has gotten into the interviews multiple times, right? So this is it actually. This was a basic story, and it will really help you with your preparation. It's all about his journey, and it will give you a good insight. So that is what I wanted to share, and you can read about it. It's a small book, 250 words, very simple to read, and the link is in the description box below. Okay, so basic political news, just as a quick update, right? So some things that had happened I wanted to cover. So some political tussle that is going on. Then the High Court says, Karnataka High Court, that please resolve this issue of the hijab. And in fact, with reference to the hijab, we did a question with reference to right to wear. So 2-3 days back, I had done this question. Day before yesterday, we had done this question quite holistically, this topic. So you can refer to that DNA. Right. And then with reference to the Kheri case, so some developments are taking place. So in Lakhimpur Kheri, where the person was, the SUV vehicle had ran over the farmers who were protesting. Right. RBI holds rates to spur growth. So this we'll discuss more into detail. And here is the article. Yeah, so RBI retains status quo to spur growth. Let me just do these things and then we'll come to the question. So, what is happening at this point of time? First of all, Reserve Bank of India is responsible for developing the monetary policy. So monetary policy, as the name goes, monetary. money related aspects. So there is one fiscal policy where the government is spending, when we are looking at government spending and government's revenue, taxation. But monetary policy is with reference to the banking system, with reference to how the money is flowing into the economy, flowing and coming back, all those things. So this is the main domain of the Reserve Bank of India. And around 2015-2016, within the RBI, there is a specialized committee known as Monetary Policy Committee. Right, so this is the committee that was formed, and this was formed on the recommendations of Urjit Patel Committee report, constituted by the then Governor Raghuram Rajan. Okay, so it is basically this MPC, Monetary Policy Committee, which has come to this status quo. There has been a concern in the recent times that, because of the pandemic in particular, our GDP has come down. There is a lot of unemployment. Informal sector is in a very bad state. So GDP is coming down. We had done a week before that the index of industrial production is at a very, very low rate. So there is a problem. So for the industry to grow and to enhance, we need to provide them money. We need to provide them credit, that too at a low cost. But when we provide them interest at low cost, we are putting more money into the economy. When there is more money into the economy, then it will lead to inflation. And in the recent times, the inflation has been very, very steep. It's very, very problematic. So this is a dilemma that the Monetary Policy Committee or the Reserve Bank of India has. So it is in this context. So the inflation is very high. We expect the MPC or the RBI to do something that it takes out the money from the economy or take certain measures so that the inflation comes down. But then it will affect the GDP. So in that light, the RBI has decided to go with status quo. They have taken an accommodative stance to ensure durable recovery. That is, we are having a recovery that sustainable recovery. Okay, so we talk about the Monetary Policy Committee. So it says that it kept the key interest rates or policy interest rates unchanged and by a 5:1 majority voted. What does this mean? It means that the Monetary Policy Committee, which is within the Reserve Bank of India, has 6 members. And this includes the RBI governor. Clear? So it includes the RBI governor, and they take decisions on the basis of voting, on the basis of majority vote. Clear? I think this should be clear to you. Okay. So this has a prominent economist, this has representative of the government and the representative of the Reserve Bank of India. Before this committee was constituted, it was plainly the task of the RBI governor. But then how did the RBI governor come to this conclusion? What policy should be there? How should the decisions be taken? There was a lack of transparency in that regard. So therefore, we came up with the system of Monetary Policy Committee system. Okay, so this is it. So now what does this MPC say? Why did they go with this? They say that first of all, the economic activity has come down, specifically with reference to this Omicron variant. And then it also highlighted the issue of inflation. So it says that headline inflation is coming up, right? So now we have another concept, headline inflation. We know what is inflation. Inflation is price rise, but what is this headline inflation? Then there is a reference of core inflation. So core inflation remains elevated. So we have to do this 2 things over here. And furthermore, the concept of, it says that the real GDP of the economy will be at 7.8% for 22-23. Now, these are the topics that we have to discuss. We all know that there is high inflation in the economy, and one of the reasons is high international crude prices. Okay, so first things first. First is inflation, right? So the inflation is high, but within the inflation, it has come up with 2 concepts, headline inflation and core inflation. So both are high. So let's do this. So basically, when we refer to inflation figures, by default, we are talking about headline inflation. So this is, let's say, what is inflation? Inflation is the increase in prices, right? Price of commodities. So let's say there are a basket of different types of goods. So there are different types of goods. So their price has increased. Goods and services, by the way. Services are also included as MPC takes into account the consumer price index. Okay, so the prices are increasing of a basket of goods. Now in this, there are certain goods like fuel, food, some other goods you can think of, some service, let's say. So basically what I'm saying is there are certain things that are very volatile, very inflationary. So they drive the overall inflation. And then there are certain items that remain very stable. More or less they are stable. So when we remove the volatile component, we remove the basket of products that are very volatile, price volatile, then we get the core inflation. Right? This concept is done, headline and core inflation. And you have a doubt, you can just ping me on my details are there, Telegram is there, WhatsApp is there. The good thing with Telegram is that numbers are not exchanged, right? So that is why I prefer the Telegram thing, but WhatsApp is, my number is already there, but yeah. Okay, so this is what I wanted to share. Now we have, it is talking about the real GDP growth is projected to increase, right? It is at 7.8%, so it is increasing only. Okay. Yeah, so what is this real GDP? What is the problem with the definition of GDP that we come up with the figure something known as real GDP? How is it different from the normal GDP? So normal GDP, as we say, it is the market value of goods and services that are produced within the geographical boundary of the country, right? Within the geographical boundary, so whatever is happening, production is taking place or services that are created, their market value. Market value is taken into consideration. This may not be the exact definition, but I wanted to include certain concept. So market value of things, so their value. So that is basically GDP. So this GDP, if I say, put it this way, it is the production that is taking place. Let me write production in terms of quantity. So quantity that is being produced, this includes services also, and the price. So even if the price increases, GDP is also increasing, but price can increase not because of some improvement in the economy, but simply because of inflation, right? Simply because of inflation, the GDP is increasing. That is not a good representation. That is not accurate. It is not telling that the economy is doing good because the GDP is growing. So that is why we have real GDP. Real GDP is neglecting the price aspect and focusing more on the production that is taking place in the economy. So that is the difference. So when we say GDP alone, it basically implies nominal GDP, something that we see directly. So nominal GDP, and it is a factor of the production that is taking place, goods and services, and multiplied by the price, right? That is the value of anything. So thing plus into value, market value, price. But when we look at the real GDP, we are concerned merely about the production that is taking place and not with the price. So in a way, it is removing the inflationary component over here. So the impact that is with the inflation. So this we use the GDP deflator to identify the real GDP from the nominal GDP, and this will give us an indication of the inflation. So the impact of inflation that has led to the increase in GDP, right? So that is counted over here. So this is the real GDP. Okay. Now I have a question. We are done with all the SPRE related aspects, concepts. Now coming back to the question over here. Elaborate the monetary policy dilemma of balancing price stability and sustained economic recovery. In fact, here itself, the RBI's committee people have said that we are trying to follow a primary mandate of price stability over the medium term while also ensuring a strong, sustained economic recovery. So, price stability and sustained economic recovery. How should RBI approach this dilemma in the post-lockdown phase? Right? So, in the post-lockdown phase, how should the RBI approach this? Now it could have been also been written as the Monetary Policy Committee, but I think it should be clear to you that the MPC works under the RBI. Right. So when we say RBI, we are looking at the monetary policy aspect, not the fiscal policy. So even via fiscal policy, we can look at inflation, but here I'm very specific with reference to monetary policy. Right. So I think you should be able to elaborate this monetary policy dilemma of balancing price stability and economic sustained recovery. So you can start your answer by maybe referring to the monetary policy framework, which came as a result of the Urijit committee report, right? You can Google this also. So monetary policy framework says that its primary mandate is of ensuring price stability, but at the same time secure sustained economic recovery. This is a statement from this policy framework itself. Okay. Now in the recent times, we have seen that the RBI has been very, when I say recent times, I'm not talking about this governor, but before this, Raghuram Rajan and then Urijit Patel, so these two governors. So price targeting has been, inflation targeting has been there, has taken priority. So they say if we look at the inflation side as well, if we correct this problem, automatically other things will fall into place. So we have price and this thing. So we have this dilemma, so we have to weigh the pros and cons of each other over here, right? So we have to do this independently because the question is asking us such, and we don't have to correlate with the present times, because in the second part we can automatically refer to what measures should be taken in the present context, right? So what are the benefits of inflation targeting? Why do we have to target on the inflation? What is the benefit of this? First of all, when the prices increase, it affects the consumers, right? Their buying capacity gets affected because the things are getting more expensive. In real terms, if we say the salary is actually coming down, the payments that they get, it is coming down because they are not able to afford things. Okay. It even affects the industry. The cost of raw materials and other things increases. At the same time, when there is more inflation, the labor will also demand higher payments, higher wages. So it affects the industry as well, competitiveness of the industry. Okay, now imagine if there is more inflation taking place in the economy, if the things are getting more and more expensive. Let's say somebody from USA, think about some mobile manufacturing company or anything, so wants to have a plant in India. Right, so they decide, okay, fine, we will need 1,000 crore rupees and we will have a plant. But if they see that, we are investing 1,000 crores, but the same thing is now costing us, let's say, 1,100 crores, because things are getting more expensive, so they need to spend more. So it will not attract investments, and it is also undermining the value of currency. With 100 rupees, imagine the case with the fuel itself. So if with 100 rupees you can buy 1 liter of petrol, right? And before this we could buy it at 50 rupees or 60 rupees. So the value of your currency, the money that you hold, it is not providing you the same value. The same amount of things cannot be bought, and that is not just with the fuel, but with the food and so many other things. So it undermines the value of currency, and therefore this makes it unattractive for investment to take place. It makes a capital formation and investments more difficult because long-term stability or long-term protection of the price is not there. So it is problematic. And we all know we look at the durable economic recovery also we need, and for that what do we need to do? We need to provide more credit, especially at low cost. That is, we have to provide credit at low interest rate, and it should be very easily available. But then this pushes inflation, and in the present context we have a declining index of industrial production. Our agriculture growth is coming down. In the entire economy has come down, but even before the pandemic we were experiencing a situation of the slowdown. Right? The article itself says that the close contact intensive service sector also needs support. So all of this requires money, but when we do this, it will affecting the inflation targeting, as the inflation figures keeps going up and up. Oh, by the way, monetary policy framework also decides the inflation targeting. That is, what is the inflation figure a percentage that should be targeted. So it is at 4%, inflation is considered good, with plus minus tolerance of plus minus 2%. So that means it could be 2% to 6%. But moment it starts breaching that 4% mark, that means the government as well as the RBI needs to be more focused. More needs to be done. I think I'll add one more point to this. Somewhere if we talk about the durable economic recovery, there are a lot of factors to this, even fiscal aspect also. But when we look at inflation targeting, and if we fix the target, we can blame the RBI then. And when I say blame, better word is we can hold the RBI accountable. Right? So we have a quantifiable metric on which we can hold the RBI accountable that see, inflation targeting is your task and you have failed in that. Okay. Now comes the post-lockdown scenario. And this is the thing where you can actually showcase your awareness about situations and how you correlate the current aspect with the knowledge that you have, the static portion. Right? So this is it. Static actually we have covered all through now. Okay. Yeah. So here you can say that see, in the present context, we need to look at both the things, price stability and economic recovery. But in the present context, we need to identify the causes of inflation. So because of the pandemic-like situation, the supply side, there are supply side issues, supply of things, manufacturing that have come down. So there is more demand of things, but the supply is not there. So that is pushing inflation, right? Then there is the issue of more money in the economy. And then there are also fiscal factors like taxation on fuel. So everything will get expensive. So what are the things that RBI actually has control over? That is the thing maybe you can point out and you can showcase your awareness, right? Supply side RBI cannot do anything about it. It is there, it has limited control. And likewise with reference to taxation on fuel. Only thing over here is with reference to this and to what extent it will affect. And furthermore, you can indicate the issue of the gap between the WPI and the CPI, Consumer Price Index. What is the difference? Wholesale price index. For example, you buy rice. Imagine you buy rice from the retailer. So you buy it at 1 kg, right? But your retailer is buying from a wholesaler, then from a distributor. From the farmer sells it at a quintals. And from that you're buying so much. So there is a whole chain that is going on. So at the wholesale level, the inflation is higher as compared to at the retail level where you actually spend money. So we have a gap. So what we will see is the price at which the wholesaler is buying, it is increasing. So naturally this will go back to the retailer or it will be transferred to the consumer. Right? This is very effective. They have a very smooth system. They are able to do this. But yeah, so this is going to happen at the end of it. So we need to keep this also in mind while we are looking at the inflation policy. We need to focus on core inflation. We need to prioritize the aspect of core inflation because headline inflation is seasonal, right? Food inflation is seasonal. So we have to focus more on the core aspect. Now, given the realities of the situation, we would recommend that the RBI has an accommodative stance or a dovish stance, not a hawk-like stance where it is very specific that inflation is increasing, we increase the interest rate. So accommodative stance for durable economic recovery. RBI itself says this. But at the same time, we should have an eye on inflation. Else what will happen? It will lead to a stagflation like a situation. What is stagflation? Stagflation is a situation where we have a very high inflation rate. At the same time, the economy is stagnant, right? Unemployment is increasing. So we will have such a situation if we turn a blind eye to it. We are saying accommodative, not turning a blind eye to inflation, right? So this is how you can approach your question over here, right? A lighter topic, but we have some concepts with reference to economics. Okay. So cryptos are a threat to financial stability. Who says? Shaktikanta Das. And who is Shaktikanta Das? The chair of the Monetary Policy Committee. And who is the chair of the Monetary Policy Committee? The RBI governor. Okay. So he says that the cryptos are a threat to financial stability. Why? Because there is a lack of underlying is risk to investors. And actually I was thinking, what does this mean? Okay, so lack of underlying asset value is a risk to investor, and I think this is all we need over here. And furthermore, he says that we will have RBI is in the process of introducing its own central bank digital currency, and I have a video, 13 minute video explaining the entire concept of this and how it is better. Okay, now let's come back, because these things are important for your risk asset value thing. So first of all, when we look at this, it is a threat to financial stability. So it is actually, first of all, it is a risk to the investor. So somebody who's trading in cryptocurrencies like Bitcoins, Ethereum, so many things are there. So it is a risk to investor because, first of all, this is not regulated, right? It may so happen that the company vanishes altogether. When we invest in stocks, there are other instruments also. We invest in stocks, we invest in property, and so many other things. All of them are regulated. Some sort of a licensing is required. So regulator or the government is taking responsibility that if you invest, there is some sort of a safeguard that is there. But in this case, it is between two individuals, maybe the company and the investor, but the government has no role or regulation is not there. So what if they dupe the people of the investments that have been made? Or if they go bankrupt, what is the business model that they have? Right? There are concerns that the investor value will get depleted. And I think these days we have many of these apps and coming on the TV also, kya crypto pe trade and all those things, right? So with that also, younger population are more into this crypto trade, and that can be very dangerous. Okay. Then it is risk to the nation. It is affecting the investor. Naturally, it is risk to the nation also. And many of these cryptos that are there, that are international. So when you are investing, you are parking your money elsewhere in a foreign territory. So there is outflow of money. So what if it goes away? Huge amount of money is parked and there is no guarantee to it. So the country's assets, country's value is getting undermined. Okay, now one more thing, it has lack of underlying asset value. Now in this regard, we have to discuss two concepts, fiat currency and intrinsic currency. It is there in your 12th economy, intrinsic currency. Intrinsic is fine. So first of all, when we look at a coin, like for example, if you look at a gold coin made of gold, so it has an underlying asset value, even if it doesn't write a digit to it. For example, a rupee has 1 rupee, 2 rupee, 3 rupee. So we know it has a value. So even if that gold coin did not have a value written to it, it has an intrinsic value. Because it's made of gold, it is intrinsic. It is something that is because of that material that is used. Fiat currency is something like your paper currency. Paper has no value. Likewise, your aluminium based coins that are there have no value. But if that coin value writes 100, even if it writes 100 rupees, it has that value. That piece of paper has 100, 200, 2000. That is the value of that currency. So it is a legal tender. It is not intrinsic. The value doesn't come because of the material that is used, but because it is being backed by the government. It is a legal tender, right? So RBI, the currency notes that are issued by the government or the RBI are fiat currency. And are they backed by assets? Yes, they are backed. Banknotes issued by RBI are backed by assets such as gold, government securities, foreign currency assets, as defined in Section 33 of the RBI Act. Right? So this is it. Russia launches Belarus military drills. Same old story. Only thing is we have this S-400 air defense system. So quickly we'll do it. Right? You all know this by now. We have a video also. So there is the eminent concern about Russia invading into Ukraine, maybe getting the entire Ukraine also. There is a military drill that is going on. It has just been initiated. So Russian soldiers are there in Belarus, and there is a concern that from the north side, the Russians may invade into Ukraine because of its geostrategic significance. Right? If you have anything with this, we're covering this on a daily basis actually, so I'm doing it a bit fast. So there is a concern. The NATO said, although the Belarus or the Russians have not declared how many soldiers are there, but they are sizable number. Imagine so many troops going for a military drill. 30,000 troops. This is a figure that is given by the NATO or the USA. Sizable amount. This is good enough to have an invasion. So we have about lakhs of soldiers over here and here. So from north side, they can intrude into Ukraine and invade it. And they have deployed S-400 air defense system. So naturally, when such a thing is happening, it is being denounced, especially by the Western European countries. It has been denounced by Ukraine. So it says that it is an psychological pressure. The France, yesterday we did this, that the France leader is, France president is engaged in shuttle diplomacy. So he's shuttling to Ukraine, he's shuttling to Russia, he's shuttling to Belarus, and then coming back to Germany. So he's talking to different stakeholders and try to come to a conclusion. So it was also known as France format, from Normandy format to France format. It was there in the editorial. Right. So all of this was taking place, and now we find this taking place. Right. So any exercises have initiated, and this is seen as a concern, serious concern. Okay. Now we should look at the S-400 missile, because one, it is there in the news, and other thing is that India is also buying it, and S-400 deal is being bought from the Russians, and USA does not like this. Why are you buying from Russia? Why can't you buy from us? We are friends these days. We are very, very good friends, right? So this is a problem. Plus they say that we have sanctioned Russia, but still you are buying it. Okay. So with reference to S-400, what is it? Some basic features you need to know for your prelims paper. So this S-400, as you can see this truck, and you can see this canister, right? These again IS-4. So these are surface to air. It is a SAM missile. SAM, not Samir, SAM. So surface to air missile. So that means, let's say an aerial plane is coming, or a missile is coming, ballistic missile. This missile will go up, then it will chase the target in the air. Have you seen this fire from the YouTube? So it goes like this. That is how the fire takes place. So this is it. It can fire multiple. It can be easily mobilized, since it is a canister based. It is not grounded, right? It can move from one place to another. So it provides that mobility. And being canister, it is much easier to launch the missile. So if any threat is there, it can go. And it can engage multiple targets at a single moment. So this is the thing. Now I have a question. Think about it. This is targeting the air missile, or it is targeting your aircraft or whatever. So is it a ballistic missile, or is it a cruise missile? Without referring to the net, write it on the comment section. Is it a cruise missile? Cruise is something that goes like this and chases the target. Or is it a ballistic missile that goes in the air and hits a specific target? It goes in a specific trajectory only, like when you throw a ball like that, right? Or you throw a stone. So that is a ballistic. So what is this? Cruise or ballistic? No reference has been mentioned. I searched from the net also just to verify. But think about it. What will it be? Ballistic or cruise? Okay. An MSP scheme to transform Indian agriculture. And this is the basic scheme, and all this is just to build up to this. And I read this, so I'm doing this, but now I've changed certain things, and this is a question that I have. Critically examine the MSP regime in achieving its socio-economic objectives, suggest suitable reforms. Right, so this is the question that I want you to address, and you are able to do it. Your topic of this clarity would be there, immense clarity would be there, and anyhow the MSP based question is asked in the GS3 economy paper, you will be able to address it. Okay. So first of all, the MSP, let me explain this. And before the MSP, here is a line. A decentralized plan would aid price stabilization, income support, and help cope with the indebtedness of the farmers. Right. Okay. So these are the things, and if you see, these are the any policy objective of any government. Price stabilization is there. Income support of whom? The farmers, and cope with the indebtedness of the farmers. So let me explain first the MSP regime and let me connect these three. So first of all, we have the farmer, right? We have the farmers who are cultivating, and now also think about the aspect that how many big farmers are there and small farmers are there, small and marginal farmers. It's about 80% are small and marginal farmers, so very small land holdings. So they are cultivating on their farms. And when you're cultivating, you have input cost, you have engaged in the labor work. So there is a cost, basically. Cost of cultivation. Cost of taking this from the farm to the mandi. Right? So there is a cost through it. So the farmer sells it at the mandi. Now naturally, whatever business one does, whatever enterprise that a person does, including the farmer, they are doing it to earn a livelihood, and they should get a decent price to it, at least the price above the cost price. Then only it will be profitable, right? So this has to be done. So it is given to the mandi, goes to the market. Mandi is for market, and according to the APMC, it has to be sold at the local mandis. Okay, so it has to go to the mandi over here, and they should get a good price. But there are certain situations where, say, when a lot of farmers had a very good cultivation, so there is lot of produce, but very few takers. People don't want to buy because there is too much of production that has taken place. Clear? Too much production, and therefore the prices have fallen down. There is bumper crop and the prices have come down like anything, crashed. So you must have seen the farmer societies have taken place because of good productivity. Why? Because the prices fell down. So it is at potatoes are at 1 rupee. They are being sold. The farmers are throwing away their milk. They are throwing away the tomatoes and all those things on the streets. That has taken place because they are not happy with the price that they are getting from the mandi. So to safeguard against such scenario, the government provides a security known as minimum support price. They are providing that, see, you have incurred a cost, so this is some basic price that you should be getting, so that the farming is remunerative. At the same time, it is incentivizing the farmer to cultivate more, because ultimately we need good productivity and production. So thereby comes MSP, because if there is this concern of bumper crops, nobody would like to cultivate more. So that is the thing, and then it will affect the food security. So MSP is guaranteed. Now, who will buy at the MSP rate? That comes the question. So that is being bought by the government, and this agency is known as the Food Corporation of India. Now, these things are going to be very important. So they are getting it from the Food Corporation of India. So they secure the MSP. If they are not able to sell it at the mandi, they can go and sell it to the Food Corporation of India. So what is this doing? It is providing income support, it is providing price stabilization to the farmer, and it is safeguarding the farmers from taking loans. If they get income, if they good income and they can send this back for the input activities, then they will not need the loan. They will be, and if they have taken the loan, they will be able to pay back. So it addresses the issue of indebtedness of the farmers. Clear? These things are there. Okay. Now, but if you are giving this at the MSP at a price that the consumer is not willing to pay, if the mandi is not able to pay, so ultimately from the mandi the things go to the consumer. Yeah, so this thing goes to the consumer, and consumer, as we know, it's a large number of people are from the poorer backgrounds, right? So below poverty line is also not an accurate depiction. So there are a large number of people who need the benefits of food security, who need some sort of an additional support. And I think, I don't remember now very clearly, but 82% of the population is covered under the National Food Security Act. That means that, the things that is being procured by the FCI, Food Corporation of India, this is stored as a buffer. This is stored, and it is then given to the consumer at a concessional rate through its public distribution system, through the PDS system, sometimes also known as targeted A targeted public distribution system. That is, it is more accurate. That's all. And here comes the National Food Security Act. The idea is to keep the price stabilized for the consumer as well, so that the inflationary pressure, they are able to get the food at a concessional rate. And this is particularly helpful for the poorer people, marginalized population. Right, so this is the idea basically. So MSP helps in protecting the interest of the farmers. It helps create price stability by keeping a buffer stock. So when the inflation is increasing, of the food prices are increasing, the buffer stock can release more things, so it can increase the supply and keep the prices under check. And at the same time, for welfare component, the consumers are getting grains at a cheaper price. Okay. Now, naturally, this is a socio-economic objective of the MSP, right? Now come back to the question. Critically examine the MSP regime in achieving its socio-economic objectives. And here you have to take the holistic view, where you are not just concerned about the farmers, but other side. Farmers will take 80% of your this thing, but also the other aspects, right? So these are the socio-economic dimension to it. Okay, now has it been able to achieve this? That is the key question. So first of all, when we look at this thing, when we look at the MSP, so MSP is supposed to be very good. So then why do we have the agri GDP which is at a very low rate? Our economy, forget the pandemic, but before this, our economy was growing at 10% also at one point of time. It was going at 7%, 8% also. So overall economy is growing at this rate. Why is the agri GDP at 2%, 3%, 4%, 5% is considered exceptional? That means there is a huge gap. That means that agri GDP is not growing at that rate. It also means impoverishment of the rural sector, impoverishment of the farmers, right? So this is their agri GDP. And again, here we see that certain pockets have benefited more. Certain pockets have benefited more as compared to certain other regions, right? Randomly, I'm just making it. So this is a problem. Now, with reference to the MSP, when we say, the MSP is particularly implemented when the Food Corporation of India is buying things. And this is particularly in the belt of the Green Revolution belt. Particularly the northwest area, some parts here and there, it is procuring it. So it is these areas that have benefited more as compared to others. So it has increased the inequality. Now the MSP says that you produce such and such crops. I'm doing the second question now, second top point. So MSP says that, see, we are providing you a list of things, around 23 are there, I think 23 or 26 things are there. So items are there, apart from rice, paddy, right? So paddy, wheat, so these things are there. So apart from there, other things are also there. So there is a list of things in this, and according to this, that, see, if you cultivate paddy of this type, we will pay you so much money. Likewise for wheat, barley, likewise that thing is there. So it has been incentivizing. What we see is that MSP is intensifying the cultivation of paddy and wheat. Somewhere it is affecting the cultivation of millets, more so in the rain-fed areas. So this is affecting, so it has affected the cropping pattern. And in fact, Punjab is growing more and more of rice, and this is an arid area. Rice would be more suitable along the banks of river Ganga, right? Or where more rains are there, more water is there. It is a water-intensive crop, but in arid areas, so we are seeing groundwater depletion. And as a result of groundwater depletion, we are seeing heavy minerals that are there and more cancer taking place. So distortion of cropping pattern, distortion, it is affecting the overall ecology, it is affecting the groundwater. So there is a problem in that regard. And yes, it is affecting the fiscal dimension. Lot of subsidy spend is taking place because of the MSP. So here it says around 3 lakh crore. I thought it was 2 lakh according to the budget, right? So around 3 lakh crore is being done over here. Now don't do this thing that around 3 lakh crore is there. When you are writing your answers, always state the source from which you are saying. Else I may say that I am 8 feet tall, right? But so and so has guaranteed that I am 8 feet tall. I know I am saying something outrageous. I am not 8 feet, but just saying that it has to be backed by a source. So fiscal pressure is there. Government is spending more and more money on the subsidies. It is becoming unsustainable for the government as well. Maybe this money could have been spent in an alternative way. Okay, so this is it. Now what can be done? Right? What can be done? The farmers were saying that legalize the MSP. So what can be done? The farmers are demanding it. So corrective measures. So always when you refer your corrective measures, it has, your points have to be not your points, but your points based on the views and recommendations of various committees. So it is, you are not rewarded for your own points. It has to be backed based on committee reports, recommendations, or views of a private agency also. So it should be backed by something else. On that basis, your views have to be presented. Okay, so we have the National Commission on Farmer that was formed, also known as the Swaminathan Commission report. So it actually recommended that MSP should be there, and in fact it should be better implemented, should be increased, and it should provide at least 50, in excess of 50% of the production. 50% cost of production should be there. Right, so let's say 1 unit is there, so 1.5 at least the farmer should get. Now here again they say that cost of there is a problem between the farmer and the government. They say that we are providing you in terms of 50% margin, but they are talking only about the input cost. But what about the cost that the farmer incurs in doing that? Like whatever enterprise people do, it is not just the cost of raw materials. You all are working in different services, different sectors, so even that cost is also there, right? So everything has to be factored in. Okay, so this is there. So that is what the Swaminathan Commission report said. Then we have the Shanta Kumar Committee report. Shanta Kumar Committee report said an contrarian view actually, but now I've merged the two together. So let me just briefly tell you what Shanta Kumar Committee said. Shanta Kumar Committee said that the MSP should be removed. It should be decreased, the value that is being there, but the NCF says that it should increase. Okay. So what I have merged over here is that the things that I've taken over here, that MSP should be better implemented for sure, the value should be increased, but we need to digitize, we need to rationalize the MSP system so that not just the green revolution areas but other sectors are also benefited. We need to reconsider the role of Food Corporation of India, which is too dominant in certain pockets of the country, and move to areas where the market is not yet developed very well. And in this case, we need to consider the areas bringing the second green revolution to Eastern India, right? Second green revolution or bringing green revolution to Eastern India. So focus more on these areas now and hand it over to the private sector, or hand it over to the states, and the center should move towards the other areas of the country. So focus on that development, right? So this is it actually. And yes, we should also work on the digitization of digitization aspect, computerization of the systems, so as to avoid the leakages that are taking place, the corruption that is taking place. So this again comes from the Shanta Kumar Committee report. Right, this is it. And if you just want to go beyond this, you can say that, see, we need to go beyond the MSP. We need to reconsider other aspects also, like Bhavantar Bhugtan Yojana, where the farmer sells their produce to the market, not to the FCI, but directly to the market. And whatever is the difference between the market price and the MSP, that difference is provided to the farmers. So Bhavantar Bhugtan Yojana should be there. We need to consider other schemes like direct income support schemes, like in Pradhan Mantri Kisan Yojana, Ritu Bandhu Yojana, Kaliya Yojana. So such measures could be also mentioned. Because with MSP there is a problem that we are violating the WTO norms. Okay. Yeah, so this essentially concludes our analysis. This is the book, once again the reminder on the book, right? And you can revisit your topics. As far as our class goes, you can revisit your topics. All our topics are time stamped. That means when you scroll on your mobile phones, right? So when you scroll on your mobile phone, there is a scroll bar. So you can revisit the topics where I have highlighted or have to tick mark and attempt your answers. So about 15-20 questions are done. And if you keep doing this, I can assure you within three months your preparation will be very, very solid. with good skills, and these skills will also translate into a better rank. Not it will also help you with your essay section also. So this is it. Right then. So this is it from my side. Bye bye. Take care and all the best.